And welcome to the sequels episode, or as I like to call it, Ruined Electric Boogaloo, which is my favorite sequel of all time, because anything should be named Electric Boogaloo. Let's go around the horn and see who's all here. There is, where should we start? My lovely, beautiful co-host, Laura Sokalski.
Hi.
There you are. Artist extraordinaire, Chris Patrick.
Hello.
I can't do the whole intro. I don't have the energy. Hetero life mate, Kevin Marchetti.
What's up, everyone?
Calling from a haunted house, I believe, is Steve Icatonis.
Close. Hello.
So I brought in the movie experts in the Ruined family for this episode because we had talked about, we've talked about a lot of sequels in the majority of movie episodes we've done. We've talked about the James Bond movies. We've talked a lot about superhero movies. Before we went on air tonight, we were trying to, Steve and Patrick were trying to help me understand what was going on in Rise of Skywalker. Still don't have a clue what was going on. I believe it was something with lightsabers.
The good guys won, Matt. The good guys won.
The good guys won? Did they return the ring to Mordor? Because that's, I got...
They threw it in the Mount Doom, yeah.
So the first part of tonight, though, I would like to start it off on a positive note because I don't want it always to be negative. So I want you to go around and just tell me some of your sequels that fall in the category of good sequels, and then better sequels can combine to they're better than the original, or they just good in general. Patrick, I know, has a list because I watched him cheat, and he's got his crib notes. So, Patrick, what's like one or two that you have?
For me, I'm not a big Trekkie, but Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan just always stood out to me. I'll say Winter Soldier because I'm afraid I'm going to steal somebody else's.
Well, I can say this about...
On my list.
Are they both on your list, Steve?
They're both on my list.
Sorry.
I can say this about...
We're talking too, so I didn't want to take anybody else because he's got one that I really want to say, but I'm going to save it for Kevin.
About Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan is always, I believe, the movie that's referenced when they talk about Star Trek movies. I don't remember anything about the first Star Trek motion picture. Do you, Steve?
Terrible. Oh, yeah, I remember it. It was terrible. I saw it in the theater. It was horrible. It was pretty, I guess. There were lots of colored lights and stuff. I guess if I was stoned or something, it might have been good.
Wow. But Khan is so much better and more quotable. And really, the only quote is just Shatner screaming. But you got to hand it.
There's they put creatures in our bodies. That's a good quote too. That was my bad Russian accent.
As far as Winter Soldier goes, I'll go to Steve. Do you agree with Patrick in that being? I think was that one of the ones you had too?
Oh, that's my favorite Marvel movie of all time. So. Yeah, I think that's much better than the original Captain America, which was okay. It wasn't. I don't think it was bad, but the Winter Soldier was just so much better.
You didn't enjoy in the first Captain America 45 minutes before he becomes fucking Captain America? I don't know why they're holding it out. He's going to become Captain America. That's not a twist, guys. You don't have to hide it from us.
Right in the title.
But it might not happen.
Yeah, and he's the first Avenger. Kevin, for you, what were some of the ones that you had, the good ones?
Better than the original?
Better. I'm going to keep looking. The board's behind my head, so half of this podcast is going to be seeing the side of my profile, but it's my right side, so it's my good side.
I'm with Patrick, and I'm trying to name movies that I don't think everyone has. I got to go with Silence of the Lambs. Is probably.
Oh yeah, that's on my list too.
And Laura, did you know Silence of the Lamb is a sequel?
I honestly did not know that.
Do you know what it is? The sequel to the movie is called Manhunter, right?
Yeah, Manhunter.
Oh.
What's his name from CSI is in the first one.
Yeah,
William Peterson.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
And it was okay. It wasn't great.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but then they made the sequel, and Anthony Hopkins just created. The legendary character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On that note,
one.
There is a sequel to that movie, though, that might jump the shark just a little bit.
Yeah, I know the book series was a trilogy, but I don't know if I ever saw the sequel to Silence of the Lambs.
There's two. Red Dragon takes place before, but Hannibal
Hannibal.
Right.
Hannibal has the scene in which we've gone from psychological thriller to half of Ray Liotta's head and Anthony Hopkins playing Ray Liotta's brain like a musical instrument.
Ridley Scott, good job.
Thanks, Ridley Scott. I like to think in the behind the scenes that you just hear the money. Like he's just going, no, go ahead, film that. Are you sure you want us to hit his brain? Yeah, hit his brain. It's fine. Right, we're all good with that? Let's keep
Oh
going.
my gosh.
Scientifically correct. We'll go with it.
The one that we discussed, we made fun of Rise of Skywalker, The Empire Strikes Back, which is a beloved sequel.
Oh yeah.
Beloved. And I still love Return of the Jedi, which I know I'm not in the huge camp. I still love it because I can get over the toy part of the teddy bears because I can just rewatch the Jabba scenes over and over again. But do you think that that sequel has aged as well? Can you go back and still watch those, Kevin?
Absolutely. You know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm with you, man. I think I like Return of the Jedi better than the first two, The New Hope and Empire. But that was the one that I grew up watching. I used to love the Ewoks when I was a kid. And would that movie come out in 84?
83.
83, and I mean, I was 4, but you know, that was probably the first one I started watching religiously. Return of the Jedi.
I think I graduated from high school in 1983. So
I wasn't born yet, so
yeah, it's all right.
yeah.
Hey, Laura, did you have any of those sequels that you loved? Like a sequel where you're like, oh my God, this is amazing?
I wrote down Godfather Part 2.
I love that poll because I forced you to watch those movies all the time.
Yeah.
Godfather 2 is another one. Go ahead.
No, I did have Life before you, so I had seen it before I met you, but I'll let you have.
Well, not
credit,
too much Life, right? Not too much.
Not much.
I thought she was going to say High School Musical Part 2 or something like that.
No, I was saving that one for you, Patrick.
I've never seen any of the High School Musical movies, actually.
Oh okay.
That was after my high school time.
I'll tell you one sequel that is a bizarre one for me that I end up liking, and it's not a good movie. I'm going to preference this with it not being a good film. Is Crocodile Dundee 2? And here's why. I'm thinking that Crocodile Dundee 2 was on HBO nonstop for like a year and a half when I would come home from school. So I think I don't know. I haven't rewatched it in years. I don't think it was that good, but I think it was just programmed in my brain to be good.
Because you watched it so many times.
Because I watched it so many times, so I just assumed that it was a good movie. Steve, do you have any of those sucked but liked sequels?
Oh yeah, let's see.
Before we get to the just plain out suck or the bizarre ones.
Okay, so the ones that I have a few that I like that I don't consider really good movies, but I love movies in general, right? I'm a movie guy, so if it's a bad movie, if it's entertaining, I still probably like it. But Jason 10, one of my favorite all-time sequels.
Do not worry, sir. You're in friendly territory. Because the Ruined Podcast has gone on record saying Jason X is very watchable and very enjoyable.
It's hilarious. It's great.
Oh, it's hilarious. I think we all need to cosplay it one day. That's what I think.
And then the other ones, I like all the Hangover movies, even the 2 sequels. Which the reason I think I like those is because I like the first one, and they're just pretty much identical.
Identical.
So they're still enjoyable.
There are certain parts in 3 where I kind of still laugh out loud.
Right.
And I will not change the channel if that damn giraffe's head is getting decapitated. Like I'm like, no, just wait till it's off. Laura, did you have any of those sequels that sucked, but you were like, oh, I still like it though? Any ones that you could think of?
Most of them, to be honest with you. But I did not write anything down for that one. I failed my homework assignment.
No, it's okay. It's not.
Please forgive me. Will there be extra credit?
Kevin, how about you?
I really enjoyed Ghostbusters 2, to be honest with you.
Ooh, that, yeah.
I know it's not a good movie, but man, I love that movie. I love
Yeah, I mean, it's a Ghostbusters movie that has Bill Murray acting as Peter Venkman, so I've got to enjoy it. But yeah, you go back and watch it, you're like, wow, like he
it's
the
not
right
great.
part of it. Like it's just they let Dan Aykroyd just write a little too much. Like it went a little too bizarre in certain parts.
But you watch it every time it's on, so it's
every time it's on.
I know you guys are all you guys are all Fletch fans. How about Fletch 2?
Oh,
I
love
it. I love it. Steve, this is a true story. I was in the Universal tour, the backlot tour, with my mother. My mother recorded it because she had never seen me smile that much. It was, and I loudly exclaimed, like I'm going through and I'm like, oh, hey, that's, the Psycho House. That's where the clock, I'm telling my mother these things. I'm not listening to the tour. I'm giving myself the Universal tour. But I get to the part where the flood is about to happen. And I go, Noah's, how does he do it? Noah's Ark, flood every 24 minutes. That's from Fletch Lives. And when he gets through the water, and I go, there's the water. That's where he gets nailed. That's where Hal Holbrook gets nailed by the flood. My mom goes, calm down. No. You don't understand. It's right here and here and here. And I was a complete wreck.
That's hilarious.
I think Fletch Lives, was the equivalent of Chevy Chase's doornail to his career. I think that was like his last funny one. He went out with a bang because he went out with Christmas Vacation, which is a fantastic movie.
That's a sequel I think is better than the original myself.
That is a better original. And that was his like farewell to doing good comedies were those two movies.
Invisible Man wasn't one of them?
Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Here's the problem. I have a disease.
Modern Problems, wasn't that another?
That was 81. Oh, that was brutal. They had to, Steve, in Modern Problems, they had to do a scene where he snorted a white powder for a solid minute and a half because he was so coked up in real life. They had to make it seem like coming to another 1988, 89 comedy, Coming to America has a sequel coming out. What's your first? It does. It's in the can. It was supposed to come out this summer or later this year. What's your first reaction when I just told you that, Steve? Because you gave me the best facial reaction to it.
It's not going to be good, but I'll see it.
Yeah. Patrick?
At least it's not a reboot or a remake.
Laura?
I'm very excited.
Kevin?
Eddie Murphy's got some work again. That's good.
I was. The answer. All of you were incorrect. The answer was, you must be out of your goddamn mind.
Hashtag desperate.
But it's like that. Those sequels, like the sequels and the amount of reboots that I've seen, like that have been coming out and things. Those are the reasons why I've kind of started doing this. The sequels thing came to my mind. As far as we kind of got into the better one. We hit Christmas Vacation, Godfather, Con. Were there any ones where you were like, man, this sequel is just better than the original? Patrick, did you have any other ones?
Aliens. I mean, I like the original Alien. It's real spooky, but part 2, you had the combat. They kind of like how James Cameron did it. That one always stood out to me. I actually saw Aliens before I saw Alien. Just kind of weird how we did it. But that one for a sequel stuck out to me.
And just to clarify, you weren't in that movie, correct?
No, I was not in that.
Okay, because I don't want any fucking curveballs tonight. I'm coming right out and asking now. I don't want it to be come out 20 minutes from now. I don't want to be closing the show and you being like, yeah, it was cool to work with Sigourney Weaver, but, I had the face hugger on.
All the shit I was in was horrible, so it did not garner any sequels. It was really calm.
Kevin, did you have any of those that were better?
Yeah, I'll take the obvious one before Steve does. I'll take Terminator 2.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah, that's.
I don't necessarily agree with Chris. I like Aliens, but I didn't think Alien. I liked Aliens, but I didn't think it was necessarily better than Alien. I really liked Alien. It's a different movie. One's a horror movie, one's an action movie. You know.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
and that's a way to look at it too. It's so many of these so many of these movies too, they completely change what they were. Almost flip the series. That's kind of, I was watching this thing in this criticism of Police Academy, where if you watch the original Police Academy compared to the 6 or 7 sequels, they're totally different things. Like the first movie is this kind of raunchy. They try to tell a story. It's really offensive, and then the other is like fucking family comedy, like it's interesting how they change that up. I think Terminator 2 is like that too, where they kind of change. You have this low budget sci-fi movie, which is Terminator, and then it becomes, watching Robert Patrick melt before your eyes,
Right.
which is still an amazing effect. It's just watching how they do it, watching how they used, I believe it was mercury they used and everything like that. Like that part of movie making just boggles my mind. I did catch a sequel the other day that I find is better than the original, and that would be Titanic 2.
The resync. Awesome. Good job.
Yeah.
Think it again.
They sink it again. It had an iceberg. And it was filmed. It was not the Blumhouse. It was the other guys. Asylum. It was an Asylum movie, and the inside of the what's it called? The inside of the ship was actually like the inside of a Knights of Columbus hall, and it was just like tables and like random chairs, and they didn't have enough money to get like enough chairs for people to sit in. So then every once in a while, people would remember they were on a ship and they would go. But some of the people didn't go at the same time. So you had one, like, this is one person and the other, and they were just kind of going like this back and forth. And they're talking and they're like, yeah, because this is how cruises work. But sometimes there are sequels that I cannot believe ever got made. And because the first movie told such a complete story. The one that I noted that is just bizarre to me is Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a crazy thing to have a sequel of.
And it wasn't a direct-to-DVD sequel. This was an actual film that they made, and they made him a voodoo. They turned him into a giant voodoo doll, but he didn't decompose for some reason. And there's a great. I actually rewatched the review because I definitely didn't have time enough to watch Weekend at Bernie's 2. So I saw the Roger Ebert review of Weekend at Bernie's 2, and Siskel has the greatest line. He goes, I could have gotten past all of it, but this movie required me to remember so much about the first movie. It's ridiculous. He's like, that's why I hate this movie. Are there any ones that jump out at you guys that were just kind of sequels that came out of nowhere?
Sequels that came out of nowhere. Yeah, most of the sequels I can think of are all, they were mostly successful first movies, right? So they made some more, basically, right? They're capitalizing on.
Yeah, they're capitalizing on that. But like story-wise, it just blows my mind.
Chronicles of Riddick 2 for me was like that.
Pitch Black and then Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah, because he wanted to change, like almost like a Star Wars type epic. You have a background on his character, which I have nothing with. But you see part 2, then you see part 1. You're like, what the fuck?
Wait a minute. So there's Pitch Black.
Pitch Black, which is a great movie as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
I always liked that movie. It's a budget sci-fi movie.
Right, and then
they took Vin Diesel as a star and decided to make the Chronicles of Riddick.
That one, I've only ever seen him try to talk to Judi Dench, and it's the most painful thing.
Wait until you watch the behind the scenes of Chronicles. He's doing all the sets. He's like, these sets are fabulous. And I'm like, whoa, what happened to the voice? You're supposed to talk like this. No, he's like, this is awesome. I'm like, what
And wasn't there a third one too, Chris?
Yeah, with Batista. I forgot the name of it. They kind of went back to Pitch Black. They tried to rewind it, but
they were all crap except for the first. The first one I enjoyed. I was like, wow, that's a good sci-fi story.
Part 2, the effects and the sets were great, but I mean, it was like, he was trying to veer off. But part 1 was great. Yeah.
Yeah. The other kind of weird. It's another comedy one. It's not so much the action field, but like Analyze This got a sequel. Analyze That. And it was just very bizarre. It's just weird. Like, I'm watching it and like they yet again had like they tried to build a mythology about a movie about De Niro crying. Like that was the gag, everybody. The joke was Robert De Niro's gonna cry in this movie, and Billy Crystal played Billy Crystal. And it was a fine little movie. And it made, I guess to Steve's point, it did make a chunk of change. But instead of coming up with another movie the two could be in, they're like, no, we'll just do it again. It'll be fine.
Just do it again. People liked it the first time.
People like it the first time around. They'll love it the second time around.
Exactly.
You know
I mean,
which
I'm a little
ones?
guilty of that. So
You know which ones I really like are like the little bit older Statham movies, like Crank and Transporter and all those.
Oh.
Those are great movies.
And there you go. Those are perfectly fine, self-contained movies that they needed sequels for.
Yeah, you
I
don't
love
Crank
Safe.
too. Crank. Okay, he's dying. He fell out of an airplane and crashed into the ground. Opening of Crank 2, he's on the ground and somehow they bring him back to life.
He got someone else's.
Logical continuation.
He has a giant monster movie fight in part 2. Like, you have to do a lot of drugs to watch part 2, but it's fun. It's awesome.
But you've got to give them credit. In Crank 2, they, with a straight face, tried to explain it scientifically. They're like, no. If his adrenaline goes down, that's when he died. Wait, what? That's not a thing.
So
That's
now
never
we give him
been
a fake thing with a battery. He has to keep charging himself to keep going now. It's not the adrenaline anymore. We fixed that problem.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And they have like a talking head in that movie. Man, I'm going to want to watch Crank 2 tonight.
Did you
They're
ever see
great films.
Safe, where you had to protect the little girl who could remember all the
Numbers.
numbers, all their
Yes,
accounts?
we saw that one.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
we saw that.
I like that one.
I
Equal to
What
that,
was
isn't
that
there?
movie called? What was it
safe.
Safe.
called? Safe. Okay, yes.
There's no
And I-
sequel to that, though, right?
Not yet. Give it time.
Maybe
did
we
like-
just created it. We
I
could
did-
probably work out the plot of it if we put our heads together.
Oh, the little girl grows up, and there's a satellite that's going to crash unless she knows all the numbers, and Statham has to fight people in a bakery for some reason. You just it's a Mad Libs. Just name a place, a bakery. All right. What does he kill a guy with? Sausage. Can we do a sausage? Yeah, we can do a sausage.
Can I have a cameo in the bakery scene?
Yes,
I'd like to be in the
absolutely.
bakery scene.
You have to. This is what you have to be. You have to take the change, and he destroys the bakery, and everything's destroyed. But you're still standing there, not moving, holding the money, and everything else.
I'm
is
standing
flat.
there with a cake pop.
Right, like that. Yeah.
I want to be killed by the croissant.
Croissant, there you go.
I can't do Statham, so it's going to be terrible. But it'll be something like, hey, go
Oi.
two cake pops, and then all the action happens. The bakery's destroyed, and you're holding the 2 cake pops. He takes them from you, says, "Thanks, love," gives you money, and well, yeah, exactly, just like that. He yanks both of them, hands you the cash, and you don't move. And then the light
And I
fixture
just go,
is swinging back and forth.
"Oh."
Perfect.
That's
Why aren't
it.
we making
Boom.
movies,
Hey,
Matt?
we just-
Why aren't we making movies?
Now I just have to lose 140 pounds and work out nonstop, and I could be Jason Statham.
There you go.
You already have the head of hair to play Jason Statham.
Damn right. God bless. Hey, say what you will, little girl, but The Rock and Statham, bald as the day is long, and Idris Elba, who's not doesn't have much hair either. 3 hair-challenged men made a hit movie this year. Sure they don't have an ounce of body fat on them. No. But they give me hope.
To be fair, you don't have an ounce of body fat either, so.
Oh, but I'm.
Hi, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody. Now I get to cry myself to sleep.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
but
was
feed
said
me.
with love.
Kevin's
Um,
Damn.
God. So now let's dive into the world of we talked about bad sequels that we like because we can all agree. Crank 2 comes on. We're all watching it, and more than likely we're texting each other during it. Let's jump into terrible sequels that either A, ruined the original movie for you, or made you mad. Not just, oh man, this movie's stupid, I'm not going to watch it, or made you mad. Laura, you have your hand up, which is very nice.
I choose The Mummy Returns. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
Oh,
How do I send her to the waiting room in Zoom?
Spider-Man 3.
Oh,
I
thank you.
love Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 2 was so good. It was one of my favorite sequels, and then Spider-Man 3 was just trash.
He is becoming my spirit animal because he is like so
I think there's been on more than one occasion where we have addressed the fact that in Spider-Man 3, he defeats one of the villains by making him cry, just blowing away.
that movie's frustrating.
It's gone.
Yeah,
Wait, which Spider-Man 3? Which?
Spider-Man
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker, where he has black hair and he dances in the movie
In the jazz club.
at the jazz club, and he's dating Ron Howard's daughter, who's a blonde for some reason in the movie.
Gwen.
Wait,
Gwen.
who's the
Tobey
who's the
Maguire.
Spider-Man? Oh, this is a Tobey Maguire one.
Yes.
Yeah.
The guy from Wings is Sandman.
Right.
The kid, all of this, everything that's coming out of my mouth is true. The guy from Wings is Sandman. The guy from That 70s Show is Venom. And the biggest reveal of the movie is delivered by a 90-year-old butler who makes zero sense and is the worst actor I've ever seen on screen. I was there and I changed his wounds and I saw them, and the glider was the reason that he shoot him. Done.
Raimi didn't want to do that movie. He wanted to do Vulture, and he got mad because they forced him to do Venom. And I wish they'd let him do Vulture because Venom's one of my favorite, and he's screwed. It's just
But who in their right goddamn mind thought that the kid from That 70s Show was a good choice for Venom?
The little redhead kid, yeah.
Are you referring to Topher Grace?
Yeah,
Topher Grace.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I see. He's scary.
If you're watching this YouTube, Topher, we're sorry, but yeah.
Kevin, do you have any ones you want to throw out?
Yes, I do, actually. I'm going to throw this back to the 90s action movie one. Do you remember one of my pet peeves in movies?
That would be changing the characters or changing the
That's
actor
right.
for roles.
So I'm going to go with Teen Wolf 2.
Oh!
Man, that drives me crazy. That movie is terrible. It's not even a basketball movie. Now it's a boxing movie. Apparently, is there boxing in high school?
Because that's a huge sport in high school. Oh, wow. That's a great one because it really does blemish. No, I said horrible. Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, a great one for
Matt, you're freezing on me. Is he freezing on anyone else, or is it just me?
Put Max Headroom on me too over here.
You're
No, I
freezing.
just
You're
paused
frozen.
myself. I just paused myself. I did it on purpose.
He's okay now, but Kevin was a little bit.
I think we're good.
Internet.
I really, that's such a weird one. Teen Wolf 2. And yet again, was there a need 5 years? I think it was like 5 or 6 years after the original. Like, people were screaming for a sequel to Teen Wolf.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Or I think Short Circuit 2 was mentioned before.
Terrible.
Oof.
Who was calling for that movie? Who was sitting there going, "Wow, I can't wait to take the kids to go see a robot that doesn't work"? Oh,
You're supposed to be asleep.
yeah, go to bed.
Hey, it's the
Excuse me.
Sokalski sequel.
Yeah,
Duty calls, everyone.
yeah, it's the hyperactive, more expensive sequel.
You heard Kevin say Teen Wolf 2 and was like, what the
Yeah, she came running in. I'm going to throw out, because I know Laura hasn't seen it, so we don't even have to discuss it with her here. One of my sequels that the anger, and I sent the poster to Steve to study, and that would be Caddyshack 2.
Terrible. Dreadful.
And the thing that really bothered me is that wasn't a sequel that just kind of went away, because after it bombed in the movie theater, they played it on TV constantly for years. It finally, it was on HBO, and then like TBS or some other channel had it on all of the time. So it has Kevin's pet peeve of changing the main character, in which you took Rodney Dangerfield and replaced him with Jackie Mason, just doing Jackie Mason's shtick that he did in like it wasn't even like new stuff that he wrote. It was like stuff and jokes that made no sense. Yeah. And then you kind of changed, like Steve had said before, the kind of movie it was.
Yeah.
Where the original Caddyshack was this adult, raunchy humor, and it was a coming-of-age story, and basically showing rich people are all assholes. In general, that's what the movie is. Doesn't matter if you're new money or old money. Everybody's an asshole. You just should go work and be a hard worker. Caddyshack 2 is this guy who's got a lot of money. He's all right. But the stuck-up people, and that was like a screwball comedy, you know?
They changed 2 characters in that movie too, and they also got rid of Bill Murray and put in Dan Aykroyd.
And they put Dan Aykroyd in, and they made Ty Webb a billionaire. All of a sudden, he's a you know, it was horrible, horrible movie. The other movie that we have to discuss, and I don't know how Kevin's going to take this one, is the sequel. This one falls into the bizarre sequels, and that would be Rock and Roll High School Forever, which, of course, is the sequel to Rock and Roll High School, the Ramones movie, in which Cece Ramone has one line.
Hey, pizza.
Let's get in.
You know, he had a whole page of, and he couldn't remember anything. Like, can you say, hey, pizza? Got it. Okay. Keep going. Let's go.
There's a great Marky story, before we get to how bad the sequel is, there's a great Marky story about when they're doing I Want to Be Your Girlfriend, because they're all in the other 3 are in the house with PJ Souls walking around while she's in a towel and everything. And Marky's like, yeah, it was great. The drums couldn't fit in the house, so they put me out in the yard.
What's that from?
In the Ramones in Rock and Roll High. They're singing I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, but they, of course, you know, they were filming it for like $15, and they didn't think of the location, and they couldn't fit the drums inside the house, so they just stuck them in the backyard, and they got to hang out inside. He's like, yeah, I sat outside for 4 hours.
Roger Corman was the producer on that, wasn't he?
Yes.
That explains it. Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin, can you walk us through Rock and Roll High School 2, please?
I haven't seen that movie in ages. I just know Corey Feldman is in there.
There you go. And who is replaced? So the Ramones are replaced by who?
By Corey. What was it?
The Eradicators. The Eradicators.
That's it. You're putting me on the spot. I just remember the bathroom scene where they're drinking each other's pee, but it was
what?
Yes.
Wasn't pee, it was apple juice.
It was apple juice, but the Asian guy who hasn't spoken all the movie goes, hey, this is not my pee.
Wow, I should have studied up on that. That's good.
Me and my sister literally said that to each other every time we drank apple juice. Hey, this is not my pee.
That's not my pee.
Yeah, and then he danced. Now remember, the legends of punk rock music were in the first one. Now it's Corey Feldman, and he does his goddamn impression of Michael Jackson the entire time. Every musical scene, he starts dancing like Michael Jackson. It's so uncomfortable.
He was hanging out with Michael Jackson a lot.
Way too much.
Yeah, it was very good.
Hey, Steve, there's a movie I would like you to talk about real quick. I know I have a feeling you saw this one in the theaters. Did you see Now You See Me 2 in the theater?
Oh, no. Well, maybe. I saw Now You See Me in the theaters. I think I probably did see Now You See Me 2 in the theaters.
I'm almost positive you did.
Yeah. That's one of my Now You See Me. Cheyenne, one of my daughters, really liked that movie. She's probably about, I don't know, 15 when it came out.
Yeah.
So we went to go see it, and it was pretty good. I thought it was all right.
I like the first one because I like magic.
And then the second one is just horrible. Like, I don't even know what they were trying to do. It's a mess, and it's not funny, and the action isn't good. And I was like, wow, this is just bad.
Well, I've got bad news. I've got bad news. Part 3's coming.
Oh, really?
So they can undo the entire, like, did they leave some things to undo everything? Now they're not even magicians? Is it all in somebody's
Right.
dream?
It was all an illusion. They weren't really magicians.
Who's
Magic
actually
real.
in that one?
It's a dream.
They have. I saw it earlier today.
Jason Patrick and Corey Feldman.
It has just Michael Caine and Franco signed up. It was supposed to come out this year, but I guess it got delayed with everything. But there is a 3 in the canon.
God, how do they just shit? They just shit these movies out. I want to make sure we're not missing anything. Oh, who here saw Taken 3?
I did. I wish I hadn't. I feel like I was taken.
You were taking.
Wait, hold on. Which one is that?
Taken. Which one is that,
That's when his
Steve?
wife gets his ex-wife gets murdered, and he's this main suspect. And it has really nothing to do with any of it. And it turns out it was the new husband.
He was a gun.
I don't think we
That's
saw
right.
that one,
for
Matt.
some reason.
Oh,
Well,
Laura, you didn't watch it. I tried to start watching it, and there's a scene where he leaps over a fence, and it's one fence, Laura. He goes from point A in the bottom of the fence to the other side of the fence, and there is 9 cuts with a camera. And I went, done. I'm
The
out.
last one I saw was like the one where they're like in Istanbul. Is that
That's
two?
2.
2? Okay, so I didn't see 3.
2 was okay. 2 was
2's
all right.
okay.
It
I
was
mean, I
more
got
of
through
Okay,
it.
yeah.
I mean, the first one I really enjoyed. It was really good, I thought. But the second one was okay. But it was a classic sequel where it's like, okay, we're going to do exactly the same thing we did in the first one, and and people will like it because they like the first one.
Because they like the first one.
Right.
And then they do callbacks and are like, remember this? Yeah, I know. I just saw the movie. It came out a year ago. I'm trying to think if we missed any. I
was gonna say, I did like Frozen 2.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Frozen, but see, I like Frozen 2 too. I can discuss this with you, Laura. I did like Frozen 2 because they actually, one of the greatest jokes in Frozen 2 is them making fun of fan service, because they open up the movie where they're playing charades, and basically Olaf runs through every kind of joke that other movies would show in a sequel. And I'm like, oh, they did this just to piss people off. And I'm like, that's kind of funny. But they expanded the mythology, and it shut my kids up.
So that's a bonus, right?
Oh my God.
That's all you need, right?
Our daughter sat there.
In a Disney movie.
That little hyperactive crazy person that just ran across the screen, she sat like this the first time we saw it, not the second time. Once it was second time, then she was all over. She sat like this for 40 straight minutes, which I didn't know was possible. And then she looked over and she goes, I have to pee. Go. And
So funny.
I have one more sequel that I wanted to talk about.
yeah, absolutely.
That is supposed to be really good. Lots of people like it. I don't like it. I didn't think it was that good. It's Skyfall, the James Bond sequel. It was not that. I don't understand why it was so acclaimed, because it was.
I don't.
Ugh, it was
Showed
average at best.
That's why.
Why is it, Patrick? You broke up.
Oh, sorry. Because they showed his, he was in his house where he grew up, and we never hear about him. And I think that's why I hated it. The only scene I liked is when he looks back at the house when it's burning down. He goes, I never liked it anyway. That was the only scene I really enjoyed in that whole movie, because you thought he was going to be emotional because they were burning down his house. And he was like, I didn't like it anyway, and he left.
Right.
I think it's because they showed some of his background, because we never hear much. Other than that, I'm like you. I'm like, it was not.
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen every James Bond movie ever, and I like a lot of them, but that's not one of them. And I like the Daniel Craig, the ones before that. They were really good.
Yeah, I couldn't get into Skyfall. I just couldn't get into it. I really couldn't get into Spectre either. Like, I can watch Spectre.
Yeah, okay.
I can't. He's done. Like we talked about in the James Bond podcast, he's done. He doesn't want to be doing these anymore.
Right.
I mean,
Whereas, like, Casino Royale was, I thought, really good. That was a really good.
Casino Royale was fine, and if they just delayed Quantum Solace, a year, and let writers come back and write it, and not let actors write their dialogue, then they could have saved the movie. That's a tip. That's a tip for everyone listening out. If you've made it this far in the podcast and you're an aspiring, want to be in the film industry, if you're making a movie, have a writer. It's a good thing to have. Don't just say, we're going to make up a movie as we go along, because it's not going to work. I I will say one of the ones that has a movie that has two sequels. One sequel that is very good, and one sequel that is horrific, is Batman Begins. The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight is a great movie.
The Dark Knight is a very good sequel, and it's a very good movie. It does suffer the fact that they put Maggie Gyllenhaal in it because they couldn't get Looney Tunes back in.
Kevin is angry.
Yeah, I mean, and it is kind
Same
of dark.
character.
And she's same character, and she's just not she's not good. But I like the Dark Knight, and then they made Dark Knight Rises, which negates the Dark Knight, and they never got around to making Batman a good detective, which really pissed me off. It was like they were hinting at it, like they were like, "Listen, we know the book is called Detective Comics. He's going to be smart. We promise. He's still going to be a little stupid in Dark Knight, just a little bit, okay? He's going to get smarter." And then Dark Knight Rises come, and that is just, I mean, talk about throwing all the that's the Spider-Man 3 problem.
What are you doing? What is wrong with you?
Oh, don't you understand? It'll be the second podcast in a row where we're doing the Bane voice back and forth to each other, but I mean, his plan is just so stupid. He's gonna blow. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, it was just so bad. And to me, now that I watch, like, I go back and I watch Dark Knight, or I'll watch pieces of it, or parts of Batman Begins. I just hear Tom Hardy's voice sometimes. Oh, just wait and get a hold of me.
You were trained in the dark. I was raised in the dark.
Yeah, what does that mean? No, there was plenty of there was TV. There was TV in that goddamn prison. What is he talking about? And by the way, that TV that's deep below the Earth's core, or wherever the fuck they were, gets better reception than my goddamn laptop in Valrico, Florida.
What was better was how Christian Bale got back to Gotham that quick from wherever the hell he was. He was like in Gotham that fast. Government didn't in Gotham, but he did. He's just walking like, I'm back.
And all of Batman's money was in the stock market. So just to let you know, every penny he had was in the stock market. That's not how finance works. Like, I want to look around and tell everyone, that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. It's like that commercial where it's like, that's not, like, what did he have, one IRA that was in everything? Like, oh, I've disabled it. I've taken out I can't even say Hathaway. I can't do it because I'm so angry. Like, I visibly get angry. And the sad part is, only if there was 80 years of source material they could go back to and look and try to make a coherent story of.
Right.
But they wonder why the comics suck now.
No, yes, don't get me in
but yeah, some of these sequels, I mean, they ruin, I mean, so many, and that's so bad. And then some sequels, I think, add to it. I think that the Back to the Future sequels, I think, add to the first one. Because I can watch all three of them. And yeah, 3 is not a great movie, but it's still a fun little Wild West movie,
Exactly, yeah.
And then when I learned that Michael J. Fox almost really died when he was when they were hanging him, that really fucked with my head, because now I rewatch it, I'm like, man, now I gotta like this movie. I've gotta give this guy credit for doing that scene. But that's another movie where it's it's almost the same thing over and over again, but it's it's enjoyable.
Right.
Any sequels we forgot, boys and ladies? Patrick? Or are you just signing the devil?
No, that too. For this next one, I'm going to do a public service announcement for a film. I'm not making this up. Whatever you do, I don't care if you're locked down or not, do not watch Roadhouse 2 Last Call.
Oh.
Kevin hates.
I didn't even know there was one.
Well, I'm saving you. Kevin doesn't like when they change characters, and I agree with him. I hate when they kill off a character. Like, you spent all that time and invested in the first one, and then they kill him off. In the sequel, they kill off Patrick Swayze's character.
Okay.
His son comes back, and he's taught his son kung fu. And it's lots of karate in the bar. It's low budget. I was sitting there. It came on the Sci-Fi Channel for some damn reason. I don't know why.
Because they'll play anything. They're so desperate.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm a big fan. We all actually did this on a podcast earlier about Roadhouse. Like, I don't care how many roundhouse kicks this kid tries. I think Jack Busey or somebody, Jake Busey was in it too. He couldn't save it. And I'm just like, this is disgusting. And with
Patrick, I want you to re-examine what you just went through what came out of your mouth.
I was aghast.
There is no chance in human history the words Jake Busey saving a movie is ever going to be the correct answer.
That's how desperate I was for this to work. I was
Patrick, that's how I stop my alarm, my house alarm going off. When they call me and they ask for my phrase, it is Jake Busey saves a movie. Because I know that no other human being will ever say that. Now I have to change it.
That's why it was desperate. I'm like, all right, he's in it. Maybe he'll have a couple good one-liners. Nope. I mean, it was just absolute. I forget the star's name. You've seen him in a lot of movies, but he doesn't look anything. They never show the mom. I guess it was the doctor from part one. They don't really say. I kind of like zoned out.
I don't think they were worried about it at that point.
No,
they were making a movie called Roadhouse 2 Last Call. They were not worried about continuity.
This guy's like 5'4", so he did not get Swayze's genes at all. Anything.
But you know, he wasn't really Swayze's kid, right? Hold on. Let's walk you through this.
But at least,
even though the mother was really Swayze's wife, right?
It was really.
It wasn't really their kid, though. It was somebody else.
But at least keep consistency. You already made a sequel to a movie who shouldn't have a sequel, so let's get a kid that's actually past dwarfism to play and actually do martial arts, because it was, I don't know. I just do yourself a favor.
I will recommend anybody who would like to comment in the chat, please give us your favorite sequels or weirdest sequels, or I don't want to hear about No Retreat, No Surrender 2. We already talked about it off camera. I know Patrick was very disappointed that I shot down a Cynthia Rothrock sequel, but I had to draw the line somewhere. And let us never forget that The Sting had a sequel with Jackie Gleason and Matt Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out. Bye. I'm out. No.
That's your homework. Try to sit. We're all going to have to now watch that movie. And whoever lasts the longest wins $1. That's the big bucks we pay at Ruin. I want to thank everybody for coming on the show tonight. Thank you, Steve, for coming live to us from wherever you're being held hostage. Blink 3 times if we have to send the police. Kevin, live from your restroom. Patrick, I am impressed that you had to have your Fast and the Furious family photo next to you. And my beautiful wife, thanks for hiding in the kitchen, taking care of our kids. Tomorrow night is the draft. I mean, I don't know when this is coming out, but the wrestling draft is going to happen, and it's going to be absolute chaos. Thank you, all of us from Ruins. Stay safe out there. They told me I needed a better outro, but I don't have one. Last word.